When I first moved into what I thought was my dream home in a quiet, upscale neighborhood, I believed I'd finally found peace. The place had everything: a big backyard, a gorgeous view, and for the most part, friendly neighbors. But of course, every paradise has its serpent. Ours went by the name Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA. From the moment I arrived, she made it painfully clear that she didn't think I belonged. She'd parade around the neighborhood with her clipboard clutched like a badge of authority, flashing that fake smile that never quite reached her eyes. Everyone knew the truth. Karen didn't care about the community. She cared about control. Still, I tried to follow the rules. I kept my lawn perfectly trimmed, my trash bins tucked out of sight, my house freshly painted. I even went the extra mile. I planted new flowers and fixed the cracked sidewalk in front of my home, even though that part technically fell under HOA maintenance. But no matter what I did, Karen always found something to nitpick. The grass is 2 inches too long. Your car was parked a few inches past the curb. A wind chime? That's a noise violation. Every week it was something new. I bit my tongue and stayed polite. I figured if I didn't feed her ego, she'd eventually get bored and move on. But then came the incident. I had ordered a few tons of decorative rocks for a landscaping project in my backyard. The delivery truck was massive, and while backing into my driveway, one of the rear tires brushed, just barely, the edge of the community flower bed near the HOA office. I got out immediately to inspect the area. A few petals scattered, some dirt shifted, nothing major. No real damage. I shrugged it off, thinking it was nothing worth mentioning. The next morning, I woke up to find a bright red HOA violation notice plastered on my front door. Attached was a formal letter demanding $4,380 in property damage, and of course it was signed by none other than Karen herself. I was floored. No warning, no conversation, just a bill for thousands of dollars. And before I could even process it, Karen escalated things. Within days, I received notice that she'd filed a small claims lawsuit against me personally, accusing me of willfully destroying community property. That's when I realized this wasn't about the flower bed. This was personal. I didn't want drama, but if Karen wanted a fight, she was about to get one. What she didn't know was that I'd recently installed a full home security system, cameras covering my yard, driveway, and yes, the community flower bed right beside it. The footage told a story Karen definitely wasn't expecting. When the court date came, I was ready. Karen strutted into the small courtroom like she owned it, wearing a stiff black blazer, pearl earrings, and that same smug smirk she always wore when she thought she'd already won. She carried a giant binder stuffed with printouts, photos, and what looked like the entire HOA bylaws, probably just for dramatic effect. Me? I walked in calmly with a small folder, landscaping receipt, delivery invoice, and one little flash drive containing the footage that would end this nonsense once and for all. Karen wasted no time. She launched into a full-blown performance, claiming I'd recklessly destroyed HOA property. According to her, I'd hired an unlicensed landscaping crew and ignored multiple warnings about community preservation. Then she took it a step further, saying the flower bed had sentimental value because she'd personally planted it in honor of the neighborhood's founding. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Do you have any photographic or video evidence showing the damage occurring?" Karen quickly handed over a few blurry photos from her phone, nothing showing me, the truck, or any clear damage. Just some dirt, rocks, and what looked like a flattened petunia. The judge didn't look impressed. Then it was my turn, Your Honor, I said, keeping my tone even. I have time-stamped security footage from my home system showing the entire delivery and before, during, and after the supposed incident. The judge nodded. Let's see it. I plugged in the flash drive, and the courtroom fell silent as the footage began to play. The video showed the landscaping truck backing up slowly, one tire barely brushing the flower bed's edge before straightening out and stopping. The driver never even touched the grass. The judge leaned forward, squinting. "This is what caused $4,380 in damage?" he asked dryly, turning to look at Karen. Karen's face went ghostly white. But the best was yet to come. The footage continued, and after the truck left, there she was. Karen herself, stomping straight into the flower bed, kicking up dirt, yanking flowers out by their roots, and snapping pictures on her phone. The courtroom gasped. Karen immediately jumped to her feet. That's taken out of context. The judge raised his hand for silence. Miss Karen, are you telling me this isn't you deliberately damaging the same flower bed you accused him of destroying? Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. The judge leaned back, chuckling under his breath. I think we've seen enough. But the best part? The case being thrown out wasn't even the most satisfying moment. What happened after the ruling made every ounce of frustration worth it. Karen's trademark smirk was gone, replaced by the pale, stunned look of someone who'd just realized the hunter had become the hunted. The judge turned from her to me, his expression unreadable. Sir, he began, not only do I dismiss this case with prejudice, but I'm forwarding this footage to the district attorney's office. There appear to be grounds for a countersuit, or at minimum a charge of criminal mischief. Karen's eyes went wide. Your Honor, please, this video doesn't show everything, she stammered. The judge raised an eyebrow. It shows you deliberately damaging the property and staging photos to accuse someone else. That's not just unethical, Miss Karen, that's illegal. The room went dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Karen tried desperately to explain herself, claiming she'd merely been checking for damage and repositioning flowers. But the footage told another story. It showed her tearing through the flower bed, yanking up plants, and kicking up dirt for dramatic effect. Her photos were staged. Her narrative, fabricated. Her lawsuit, a complete fraud. I sat there, equal parts satisfied and amazed. I hadn't come to court to embarrass her. I just wanted to clear my name. But it seemed the universe had other plans. The judge turned to me. Would you like to pursue a counterclaim for damages, attorney fees, or defamation? I took a steady breath. Yes, Your Honor, I believe that's appropriate. His gavel came down with a sharp crack. Then I advise you to file immediately. Case dismissed. I walked out of that courtroom feeling lighter than air. Karen, meanwhile, stayed seated, mouth open, eyes unfocused, as the court clerk quietly explained the potential criminal implications of her little stunt. But it wasn't over. Within 48 hours, I filed a countersuit for defamation, legal fees, and emotional distress. Word of the case spread fast. Neighbors began whispering, sharing the footage online, and before long, several reached out with their own horror stories of Karen's HOA harassment. Turns out, I wasn't her first target, just the first one who'd stood up to her. That weekend, an emergency HOA meeting was called. I showed up with my trusty flash drive in hand. Karen sat silently at the end of the long table as the board watched the same footage the judge had. Some shook their heads. Others stared at her in disbelief, realizing what kind of leader they'd let run their neighborhood. When the video ended, no one said a word. Then, the HOA vice president cleared his throat and called for a vote. The decision was unanimous. Karen was officially removed as HOA president, effective immediately. Her reign of terror was over, but my story didn't end there. The next morning, I got a soft knock at my door. It was Greg, one of the quieter board members. Hey, he said awkwardly, rubbing the back of his neck. Just wanted to say thanks. We've wanted her out for years, but no one had proof or the guts to do it. I smiled. Happy to help. But truth be told, I wasn't done helping myself. My countersuit moved forward quickly. With the judge's comments from the original case and the airtight evidence, Karen didn't stand a chance. She tried to negotiate, offering to pay half my legal fees and issue a private apology. I turned it down. She wasn't sorry. She was scared. And she deserved to feel the weight of her actions. When we went back to court, she looked like a completely different person. Gone were the pearls, the blazer, the superiority. She looked smaller, drained, like the consequences had finally caught up to her. My attorney laid everything out, the false accusations, the fabricated photos, the public humiliation, the mental toll. He even presented footage from the HOA meeting showing her removal from office, illustrating the full extent of her damage. Karen's lawyer tried to argue that it was all a misunderstanding, but even the judge couldn't keep a straight face. He sighed, leaned forward, and said, "Miss Karen, you used your position to target and deceive. You filed a false claim and were caught red-handed. This is not a misunderstanding. It's an abuse of power." Then he made his ruling. He awarded me $15,000 in damages plus full reimbursement for all legal costs. And as the final blow, he ordered Karen to write a public letter of apology to be printed and distributed in the neighborhood newsletter. When that newsletter hit everyone's mailbox a week later, it was glorious. There it was, Karen's stiff, grudging paragraph admitting she had fabricated evidence and falsely accused me. It was probably the most humiliating 100 words she'd ever written. Neighbors laughed. Some even framed their copies. One kid reportedly asked his mom, "Is this why you said not to be a Karen?" Justice served, with poetic flair. But karma didn't stop there. Within a month, Karen had put her house up for sale. The gossip, the lawsuit, the embarrassment, it was too much. She quietly moved away, leaving behind the neighborhood she once ruled like a dictator. As for me, I finally finished my landscaping project, added a koi pond, installed a motion-sensing sprinkler system, just in case anyone ever got too close to the flower bed again. And the best part? The HOA elected a new president, Greg. He promised to lead fairly with transparency and respect. No vendettas, no power trips, just peace. Sometimes you don't need to dig someone's grave. They'll do it themselves. All you have to do is hit record. If you enjoyed seeing Karen finally get exposed and justice served the right way, make sure to hit that like button. Subscribe for more real-life revenge and HOA drama stories, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done if Karen tried this with you?